Going to do is we will be running the giveaway based on how the channel or how man, my English is good today. I should not be trying to sort out stuff and be live streaming at the same time. No, I was just looking at my own YouTube here and couldn't see my own stream, so I was a little bit surprised and thought that I had killed my own live stream while starting it, but okay, here we are. So we are going to do a giveaway as well, 3 copies of the Aerostar, and they will be given to people who are going to pick up on some details that I'm mentioning within the stream for questions that I will ask about the content of the stream later on. Alright guys, so that's going to be our basic idea of the live stream. So with that out of the way, I suggest we are going to get straight into this. And straight, well, not directly into the aircraft, but we're going to start with the walkaround. And for the walkaround, there are a couple of nice things in this airplane that we actually have to consider. So starting right down here, we do have our chocks in position. So let's go ahead and take those away. So chocks on the left side coming out, then we are going to start on the engine over here straight away, and look at that. You can actually open the oil hatch and check out the actual oil measurement like you would in a real aircraft. So that's pretty nice. Alright, so we know that we've got sufficient oil here on the engine number 1. Let's go ahead, close that one down, and then we can start our walk around. Now, I don't really know why I'm going the right way around rather than the left way around. That would be the normal standard procedure, but nonetheless. Okay, so continuing back here on the cargo hatches, let's go ahead and just make sure that there is nothing in here. We will be doing a little training flight today. Then we check out the fuel tank, so let's open that one up and have a look at what we can see. And as you can see, there is not a completely full tank, but that's sufficient for our flight. Now let's move back along the wing over here and do the same check on the outside. As we can see, there's some fuel in there. I do recommend just going a little bit backwards here, because that kind of makes it nicely visible, like how much fuel there is in here. It would be nice if we had a metering stick or something to be able to see this a little bit better. But okay, here we go. So then let's walk along the back of our airplane. We're going to take the pitot tube off. And then we've got the tie downs at the back over here, which we can remove. Moving over to the other side, beautiful look at the plane. We can remove the chocks down here, and then we've got another wing where we gotta check that we've got we actually got fuel in here, and this is looking just about fine. All right, beautiful. And Aviator 997, hi, nice to see you over here. Flown this plane in real life. Heaps of fun, and you taxied with a funny switch. Oh yeah. That is a funny switch. That's probably the best way to describe this. Alright, let's go to the other side here, make it a bit easier to actually reach the hatch for the oil. Alright, let's have a look. And here we go. So just shy of 9, that's still okay for the hour and a half up to 2 hours of flight time that we intend to do today. Alright, cool. Then we can close this one up. Now, if you look very closely at the front over here, you can see a couple of bugs and a couple of dirt that the airplane has already collected. Now, this actually builds up live as we are flying the airplane, and then you can clean it up from the electronic flight bag later on. So that's a pretty cool thing that they've implemented. And if you really are flying this airplane, then without cleaning it, you will eventually build up a lot of bug splatter along the leading edges of the plane. So that's quite the cool thing that A2A have gone for over there. Alright then, let's get inside and let's have a look at the cockpit. Very nice animation of the hatch falling down over here, and if you click on here, you get beamed right into the flight deck. And this is what it looks like. Now, the EFB is located right down here, and we can take this out, move it freely about the flight deck, just like we want to. And if you do left and right click, then you can even attach it to the yoke, so that when I'm moving my yoke, you can see the EFB moving along, which is quite a cool thing. We'll be talking about how we are going to use this later on, so that's quite the nice thing. Okay, so for now we'll just take this off here and we'll just move it somewhere over here to the side, because I want to show you a couple of the options that we've got. So you can see that this is the default flight sim EFB, and when you go down into more apps, you've got the Aerostar 600 app. Going down in here, we get this nice overview. On the flight info screen, we got the normal checklist and the emergency checklist of the aircraft, together with some weather information and a little bit of general power settings and stuff like that. So that's quite nice stuff down here. Now, going up into the controls, this is where things are really getting interesting on this airplane. So first of all, you can switch between several GPS units. For example, you can do GNS 530 and 430, just the 530 or just the 430, and the same thing over here with the GTNs. So that's quite cool stuff. Now, for an airplane with an old panel like this, I kind of like the way it is and the way it looks with just the GNS 430 in here. For that reason, that's going to be the config that I'll be using on today's flight. You can also change the EDM down here. So if you go to small JPI, then you get the smaller computer. Both of them pretty nice things, but let's go for the big one, shall we? Like that. Apart from that, the persistence option is also really nice, as you can change the liveries around and restart the sim, and the plane just stays the way you left it. And if you want this fixed by livery, you also got an option for that down here. So that's quite the cool stuff. Now, realistic steering. That's probably an option enabling what I find to be the worst idea that any airplane manufacturer ever came up with. So what does realistic steering do? Well, the Aerostar has nose wheel steering, but you're not going to handle it using the pedals or any logical way. You're going to handle it using a rocker switch. Steering left, steering right. Well, you guys can already see that since this switch is not even in the remotest possible way in my primary field of vision, like when I'm looking outside, I literally have to look like down here to be able to see anything. For this reason, I'll not be using realistic steering. When we turn this off, we got a standard nose wheel steering through the pedals, like what we are used to from so many aircraft. I tell you honestly, I very much prefer that. I very much prefer that. Gyro drift is nice as well. If you have that on and don't have the DG slave switch on, then your gyro is just gonna drift away. Pretty nice thing. And A2A simulations, welcome to the comments. Available for 24 with free FS 2020 version. Would stay and answer questions, but the stream is during my grocery shopping time. Yeah, no worries about that, Lewis. No worries about that. The stream will be going for, you know, more than an hour anyway. So we'll have some time, perhaps later. Alright, so one more nice switch that I quickly gotta, or one more nice option that I quickly gotta show off is the metric air pressure indication on here. So by default it's off, then you got that one in inches. If you're wondering how to switch it around, here it is. Over here you can switch it over to hectopascals. So that's a pretty cool thing down there. Yeah, apart from that, lots of switches that you can operate straight through the EFB. You know, think of it like that. You've got the yoke right in front of the switches. You can remove it and show it again, which is, well, by now pretty much standard, but still a cool option. But that makes it a little bit easier to operate everything if you absolutely need to. You also have an auto start switch here, by the way, in case you struggle with starting the engines. But we'll be talking about the engine startup in a few moments, and then we will get into how to run the engine reliably. Advanced options, by the way, a nice thing here, 8.33 kHz COM radios. So those conventional comms that you have over here by default are in 25 kHz spacing, which makes them basically not usable for anything outside the United States of America. For this reason, you got that option down here. You can control how strong the turbulence is going to be and your engine wear or rather your general airplane wear and the failure rate. So cool stuff that we got over here on the controls page. Now let's continue to the fuel and payload. This is pretty much standard. Over here you can load your aircraft, you can load the seats, you can load your fuel, and you got that update digital engine monitor button, which is a really neat one. But more on that later on. So for now, let's just make sure the center of gravity is where it's supposed to be. So that's me, that's you, and well, then let's continue on to the maintenance page. So over here, you can wash the airplane to get rid of like all the dirt. Then you can also clean the bugs over here. And with that, I mean the physical bugs on the engine, not the software bugs, of which I haven't found many, by the way, just to mention that. You can also inspect the airframe and overhaul it over here, and then you can do the same thing with the engines. So up here we could inspect that engine, and as you can see, mine is still in a good shape after like 4.5 hours of operating, so I haven't broken it just yet, but no worries guys, we are gonna kill an engine today. And the same, of course, for the other engine as well. Down here you can also see the oil levels. You could also decide which oil grade you want to fill into there, if you want to add an additive. You know, that is a complex engine simulation that A2A offers. Alright, now the same goes for the engine analyzers and the electrical system over here. And you can decide if you want a brand new airplane, a used one, or if you want an auction. So, pretty cool stuff that we can do down here. And one of the things that I like the most, since they haven't just implemented their custom EFB like completely, you can also just use all the other apps from the Flight Sim 2024 EFB, most notably the Navigraph charts. And that is something that I really appreciate, because it means I can get my en route charts visible right on the EFB. And this is cool, isn't it? Like, now, just... come on, hide this please. Okay, so like that, we got our en route charts here. We can attach that to our control column. And I mean, this is nice, isn't it? This is really nice. Okay, so that's everything I can say about the electronic flight bag for the time being. Now let's go ahead and actually get to starting the airplane, shall we? So let's go back into the Aerostar app, flight info, and over here we do have the normal checklists. So let's go ahead and start her up. And in the meantime, Svelas has a very good question down there in the chat. Are you preparing on every new plane and aircraft you use on videos or streams, or do you just understand everything? Oh, believe me, I need to prepare as well. Of course, you learn quite a bit of stuff in ATPL theory, so of course I have a little bit of general knowledge about how these things work, but every airplane is different, and that of course shows, and I do read those manuals, even though I gotta say that I learned the Aerostar using the checklists that are included and a little bit of information from the product manual, but I didn't yet read all the system descriptions. I read the Autopilot stuff because the Autopilot is quite fancy in this airplane, and we'll be talking about that when we go up in the air. So that's a pretty cool thing, Overall, very interesting airplane, the way that A2A has prepared this. But I can absolutely recommend everybody to read product manuals, because like at least 50% of the questions that are typically asked in the comments or in the chat would be answered directly by the manuals. And by the way, A2A is also writing some very, very good manuals that may just about be worth mentioning at this point. So let me just bring that manual up on the stream for you guys, so that you can have a look. Now, look at this. This is the manual. Now let's just scroll down a little bit. And starting down here with the general stuff and the limitations, you get lots of information about operating your airplane. And then on the next page we got the performance charts, and over here you can really go into the very same level of detail that real pilots do as well. So starting, for example, down here with the takeoff performance. This is with wing flaps 20, maximum power on a level and hard runway surface, And this tells you exactly how much takeoff distance you'll need. So this is pretty good stuff. And looking into the chat, Shadow, hi. You can write German, but I am going to answer in English. And if you want to make it easier and perhaps get answers quicker, especially when I'm busy with other stuff, I would recommend using English. But I do understand German and speak it. Alright, so these tables here are very good as well. The cruise power tables, so very, very useful stuff that you get from these product manuals. I can absolutely recommend having a look at them. Also stuff like the landing distance, where is it? Should be somewhere. You know, very much recommended to read the manuals. Alright, cool. So that much about a couple of basics. Then let's go ahead and actually run some checklists. So today is not going to be a tutorial. I have already recorded a detailed tutorial where I'm going to explain everything you need to know about how to fly the airplane. But today is going to be a demonstration, so I'll pretend that we're already proficient on the airplane. I mean, I have like 5 hours on it now. Whether you want to call that proficient or not is a different story, but we're going to go ahead and enjoy flying this. So let's go ahead and close that door. And just a gentle reminder once again to everyone who is looking into the giveaway that we'll be doing today. Listen carefully on the stream. At the end of it, I'm going to ask a couple of questions, and those who will be fastest to answer are going to win a free copy of the Aerostar. 3 copies in total to be given away. Alright then, so let's go. B4 engine start checklist. Pre-flight, complete. Passengers, briefed, seatbelt secured, cabin door closed and latched, and especially have a look at the latches on the side over here. Okay, so closed and locked, battery and ignition are off, and the magnetos are off over here and down here as well. Okay, gear switch, down, gear, down, flaps. Well, they were physically up when we checked them, and the lever is in neutral. So, brakes, test for firm, let's press the brakes, and they have sufficient resistance on them as well. Flight controls are completely free. Okay, so parking brake is set, switches, those should be all off. Let's have a, very hard to see here. So switches, well, I'm gonna keep the beacon on, that's fine. Transponder is off, DME is off, and the rest should be just about fine. Whoever flew this before me, leave your airplanes tidy, man. Okay, so there is that. Now let's keep going. So switches are all off, battery on, gear locked lights are all green. Then elevator and rudder trim, neutral, down here are neutral. Hydraulic shutoff, open, down here, and open. So fuel checked, and we've got full wing tanks and fuselage tank almost full, and that matches what we've seen outside. You gotta be a little bit careful with that, because, well, those gauges are never entirely accurate. So always make sure that you check the fuel tank levels physically during the walk around as well in those general aviation aircraft. Low fuel warning off, circuit breakers, let's go ahead and have a look. They're located over here, and we don't want to see anything white, so that would be visible. This is all in. Okay, so circuit breakers in, altimeters and clocks, let's set that QNH. So field elevation is about 220, something like this, and the clock is fine. Okay, so, and that's the B4 engine start checklist complete. Now, something that is really funny on those checklists, you know, from aircraft of the 60s, 70s, is that they often don't contain items that would otherwise be regarded as, well, you know, good judgment by the pilot. For example, it's never mentioned to turn on the beacon, which I really don't understand why it isn't. But anyway, let's get going. So engine start checklist. Props, full forward. Now they are. Mixture, idle cutoff, throttle cracked, battery on, low fuel warning out. Fuel selector, cycle and listen. So, when I'm going to move the fuel selector, we'll just listen to them operating. That's looking good. Now let's do the same on the left side. So, with that, we can verify that they're running properly. And hi, Tommy. Nice to see you. Okay, so then fuel selector cycle and listen. So right fuel boost pump on. Then right mixture on. We verify fuel flow and fuel pressure. We'll give it a couple seconds to prime the engine, and then we'll turn that back off again. So throttle, I'll just add a tiny bit more over here, like that. Alright, then. The right side is clear. Oh, and look at how the windows are fogging up. I guess we should be working faster and talking less. Alright, so engine, right engine start. And here we go. Alright, so back down to 1000 RPMs. Something like this. Good. Okay, so quick check. Oil pressure is there. Gyro pressure is looking good. Then right alternator on, and then we can go ahead and repeat the same thing for the left engine. So fuel pump on, mixture rich. Let's prime the engine, give it about 5 seconds. Like that. Now, let's open that throttle a little bit more. And then we can go ahead. The magneto is hidden down here. Let's put that on. And when we hear the engine firing, well, let's give it a bit of fuel. Here we go. And your SimCFI, hi, nice to see you over here as well. Man, that's a lot of important people down here. Tommy, SimCFI. Damn, that means I gotta operate the airplane properly now. Okay, so left master on, and then we've got the engine start checklist complete. And as you can see, the entire after start procedure is basically missing from the checklist. It's not a bug, it's a feature. It's 1980s. General aviation checklists. Well, Juan, saludos to Mexico. Alright, so we'll do the rest outside of the checklist. So let's bring those on. Transponder standby, Squawk 7000. The DME comes on. We'll bring the bring the COM on, the ADF on. Engine computer is starting, and of course is still complaining about the oil temperature, which is because we just started the engine, so nothing to worry about. GPS is also coming up, even though we are not really going to use this too much. Perhaps a little bit. Frequencies, we'll need 1565, which we can tune. 1215 in here is correct. Now let's go for the GPS and quickly start that one up as well. So what we are going to do is we'll basically be going out from Echo Delta Lima Delta, the field where I did my PPL back in the day, and we're going to fly from here over to Hamvor, do a little bit of air work over there. That's going to be Hotel Mike Mike. We'll do a little bit of air work, and then we'll be coming back over here for a couple of approaches and for exploring how the aircraft works. And Tommy, yeah, I do think this is the IO 540. Okay, so Hamvor is in here, and then back to Echo Delta Lima. Come on, where's the Lima? Oh, hello. Okay, we'll try that once more. So, Echo Delta Lima Delta. I use these devices quite a bit in flight school. Believe me, they are annoying to tune. Let's just call it that way, because that's the nice way of saying this. Okay, so for frequencies, I'm just gonna go with 1 to 2.8. Not doing this one online right now. And here we go, 22.8, 21.5. We're listening to COM 1 and 2, transmitting on COM 1. All the automatics are turned on up here. And the last thing is going to be the engine monitor, so we'll just clear the oil warnings. We did not refuel the airplane, so I'm just going to exit this. And with that, we should be absolutely good to go. Let's just step through this here. Remaining fuel 139, and up here, yeah, that's round about 139. So that's fine. I'm going to keep it this way. Cool. Alright, so let's go ahead and taxi out for runway 26 over here. And Tommy, you name it. 2 things pilots are not supposed to know. Math and the order of the alphabet. Okay, so clear on the left side, clear on the right side. We're gonna disregard the equipment over here. And now when I'm about to release the parking brake, just look at that. 1000 RPMs, plane rolls very nicely on idle. As mentioned, I'm not going to use realistic steering with the rocker switch down here. Instead, I will be going straight into the grass. Yep, the plane taxis quickly. Happens to the best. Okay, so let's do less reading of comments and more taxiing. There was just a very interesting person in the chat right there saying he bought the Aerostar in alpha stage, and it would be nice if A2A recognized those people with the full version of it. Are you telling me that if you bought the alpha version, you are not getting a free copy of the released version? That would really surprise me. I would absolutely assume that you get access to the finished version. So look at that, easily going up to 30 knots while just maintaining 1000 RPMs. That's just pretty crazy. I would taxi it the same way that I would with any airliner, let it accelerate, and then I would just let it accelerate up to 30 and then break it back down to 10, let it accelerate again. That usually has proven quite effective, and if the airliners do it, sure enough, it can't be too wrong, can it? Okay, so let's put it into the turn over here, and we'll just stop it over here. Parking brake is set, and then we can do the run-up checklist. Okay, so warm-up and run-up checklist. Warm-up at 1000 RPMs, we've done that. Engine temperatures check, and these are all looking good. Okay, props full forward, mixture full rich, throttles for 1500 RPMs. Like that. Okay, engine instruments check, so let's have a quick look. Make sure that everything's right, especially down here, oil pressure and stuff like that. And that's all looking good. Alright then, alternator, check for 28 volts. And we got 28 over here. Let's also put that over to the left alternator. Looking good. And the right alternator. Looking good. And back to the bus. Okay. So then, throttle set for 2100 RPMs. Look at how the plane is moving while I'm doing that. Those engines are producing a lot of wind that's going over the wing in this condition, and well, you can clearly see the plane moving here. Even if I'm doing a little bit of control input, it's reacting a little bit. Okay, so, then props cycle to 1000 RPM, maximum of 4 times. Now it's not too cold outside, so like 3 times should be absolutely sufficient to distribute the hydraulic fluid throughout those props. Let's do one more. If it was like really cold, then I might do a 4th, but this should be absolutely fine. Alright, so next up are going to be the magnetos with a maximum of 175 RPM drop. So let's start on the left one. So over to right, we lose 100 RPMs. Back to both. Left. Both. Looks good. Let's do the right engine. Right magneto. Both. Left magneto. Both. Looks awesome. Okay, so gyro pressure is checked up here, and then we can go back down to idle. And here we go. Alright, cool. So that's the warm-up and run-up checklist complete. We'll wait a moment with the before takeoff checklist, because I just quickly want to do the takeoff briefing first. It's going to be a left seat takeoff, runway 26, flaps up, rotate at 85, and we'll do an initial shallow climb until we reach 120, and then at 120 we're going to do the normal climb. Now, let's have a quick look outside, see where we can break those clouds. But yeah, I think generally towards the north, somewhere over here, is going to be fine to get on top, so that we can do a little bit of air work over there. Engine failure before we rotate, we're going to stop on the runway. The runway is more than long enough. Engine failure after rotation, we apply these standard emergency procedures. Most importantly, up here, props and throttle full forward, gear up, flaps up, in-op engine feather. If you don't feather that engine, that thing is not going to climb at all. So that's most important there. Traffic pattern officially is to the left. We are going to leave it right from the takeoff to the right, and that's everything I got for the time being. Any questions? No? Beautiful. Okay, then let's do the before takeoff checklist. So, cabin door closed and locked, flight control. Are completely free, mixture full forward, prop full forward, boost pumps on. Okay, 1 and 2 are both on. Right, instruments. And most importantly, we check that the gyro hasn't drifted. Should be heading 040, is heading 040. Looks good. So, radios, set, flaps, 0, trim, set. So, pitot heat as desired, we definitely desire it, on, and then parking brake release, throttle full forward, well, we're going to do that after lineup. And that's it. So, the approach area is clear, we can leave all the lights off since we're flying in daylight here, only gonna keep the beacon on. And here we are. So I'm going to pull up the Navigraph charts here. We are down here in Dienstlaken and we'll leave it towards the north. Controlled airspace, class Charlie, up from flight level 65 onwards. Good. Alright, cool. Then we're ready to go. So let's start the timer and take off. And look at how the plane initially rotates but doesn't lift off straight away. It needs a little bit of convincing there. So, tap the brakes, gear up. We'll start building up speed here. Trim it out, and here we go, 120. Now, as you can see, we nicely do 2000 FPM here. Let's now set climb thrust. That's 24-24. Set on both sides. Alright, we can start a right-hand turn. Let's try and find a hole in the clouds where we can go on top. So, passing 1200. Fuel pump off and fuel pump off. Now, one of the problems here is that this airplane is not pressurized. That means if we climb with more than 1,000 feet a minute, it's really going to hurt in your ears. Therefore, nice and steady, no more than 1,000 feet a minute, even if that means you're climbing at a faster speed than what you would normally be recommended to fly. Okay, also note you don't have a turbocharger, so for every 1,000 feet you climb you're going to lose an inch of manifold pressure, so be sure that you readjust your throttles in order to keep the manifold pressure for your climb. Alright, so far so good. Of course I forgot the transponder. And then we can do the after takeoff and climb checklists, which are wheels, brakes, landing gear up, flaps up. And the climb checklist, maximum climb is at 122 knots, fuel pumps off at 1000 AGL, power 2424, trim for climb speed, and that's the climb checklist complete. Looks good. Okay, so VOR 1565 is round about where we want to go. Let's do that conventionally. And that's got to be around about this direction. And I think I like that hole over there. Let's try and catch that to go on top of the clouds. The one on the left isn't too bad either, though. I just really want a little bit of air beneath my wings so that we can do some proper air work. So, for the time being, let's keep going into this direction over here. Maybe we can use some of that time to talk a little bit about how the autopilot works. Now, A2A did program a completely custom flight model outside the sim, so she flies really nicely, which kinda makes it a bit of a pity to actually use the autopilot because she just hand flies so incredibly well. But nonetheless, let's go ahead and at least experience the autopilot a little bit. So by default, it's always going to be in heading and attitude mode. So that basically tells us it's going to maintain whatever the heading bug commands and whatever attitude we have dialed in using the pitch wheel down here. When we want to engage it, just press the AP on button. And now we can use the pitch wheel in order to basically resume our target rate of climb. And that's about as easy as it gets. Now something that I like to do, because we're arriving at the transition level, to remember my QNH 1025, I'm just going to dial that down here into the ADF, and that gives me a nice little reminder. And Alan, we'll be talking about engine outlet handling in a few moments. For now, let's see, we will have to go IMC here temporarily. Shouldn't be too much of a problem though. Let's actually increase our rate of climb a bit. And if we're IMC anyway, let's just fly direct to VOR. Nav. Okay, so let's see. Temperature is currently about 5 degrees. Then let's turn on prop. De-ice down here. Here we go. And then we'll just set course to the VOR initially. Climb to a nice flight level on top of the clouds, and then we can have some fun maneuvering the aircraft. In the meantime, you can nicely see how the manifold pressure keeps getting lower all the time as we're climbing, and I keep adding more and more throttle to counter that. So eventually we're going to run out of engine power, but it's got strong engines, so for the time being that's not going to happen anytime soon. So 28.6 miles towards hum. Let's actually turn that into the ground speed, 158. Okay. So probably roughly zero wind, roughly. Alright. So looking down into the chat. Alan, I'll show you some engine out situations in a few moments. When we actually do the air work, I think we're also going to shut an engine down because it's fun. Okay, so manifold, my throttles are at maximum, so this is all we're gonna get. Alright, set standard. That's standard set. Alright, and now we're getting nicely on top of the clouds. That's what I enjoy the most about flying VFR. Always went all the way up high. And looking into the chat, Hornet, no plans for getting a force feedback yoke at the moment. Just too expensive. And Oscar, no, IMC is of course not allowed while flying VFR. That is not to say that there aren't some people who would potentially just fly through a cloud like we just did, but in the real world we would of course not have done that. In the real world we would have searched for a hole that's big enough, that one looks rather large here, so that we could climb through it while maintaining all the legal distances from our clouds. So the first thing that I want to see is how high is the airplane actually going to get over here. It should go up to 15,000, and seeing that we weren't at the max takeoff weight but quite a bit below that, we should easily be able to climb up to 15,000, but let's go ahead and see. I'll just keep it on autopilot over here. You know, if you can see through the cloud, then there isn't a cloud. That's what the dentists say. Of course, no real pilot would ever do that. Right? But in the meantime, we can talk about navigating with the GNS, or with any GPS unit, basically, in the Aerostar, because that's really a fun little thing to do. So there are two ways of how you can follow a flight plan with the Aerostar. Now let's go ahead and update this flight plan. Hum direct from present position activate. Okay, so right now we are still tracking the VOR. Let's go ahead and switch over to tracking the GPS. And the first thing that I would do here is to switch over to heading mode, so that nothing fancy happens when we are switching modes. Next up, let's go ahead and put this into GPS mode. And now the entire thing is controlled by the GPS, and we can now use nav mode in order to track the GPS. But there is a problem. The GPS in the Aerostar works, well, let's say it works just like your standard nav tracking device would. And that essentially means that the airplane knows the desired track because you've dialed it in over here, like 075 degrees. And then it has the needle. And if this offsets, it's just going to correct left and right of where the pointer is pointing. And this is quite funny, because you can see right now we're a little bit to the right of the course, and it's trying to correct to go there. But let's go ahead and do something stupid. Let's dial in a track of 120 or 125. You can see the plane starts going right and no longer follows the GPS track. In a few moments though, it's going to notice that it's actually deviating from the course that it should be on. And then eventually it'll start going left again and right again and left and right, and eventually you're going to end up in the nowhere. Like, look at this, now it notices. But now we're totally confusing the autopilot. It thinks it has to fly here, but it notices that by flying to the left, we are deviating to the right. So the autopilot no longer knows what to do. However, there is an easy solution for that. And that's this little switch that we've got up here. That's the heading GPSS switch. Now, let's actually just go ahead and try this. So I'll just re-enter the direct to hum, enter activate, GPS mode active. Now, we'll switch to heading mode, and we'll put this into GPSS. Now what the airplane is doing is it's no longer following the heading bug over here. Look at that. We can just turn that away. Now, it follows a fictional target heading from the GPS in heading mode. So that's quite the fancy way of doing this, isn't it? That is really a typical 1970s invention here, but as you can see, it's not all that precise. It'll struggle a little bit, but this is the only safe mode on how you can actually follow a flight plan from a GPS. The only safe mode how you can do this. I really like these small level of details. This is where developers like A2A and others, of course, really shine. This is where they like really shine. Alright, so that much about navigating with the GPS. Now let's actually go ahead and switch all of this back So you get controlled by heading mode again, you go back to the VOR, and you track back towards the VOR. Like this. And nav. Now flying back to the VOR. Great. So, as we can see, the airplane starts to struggle climbing. We're at like 500 feet a minute right now. Let's see, we've got no icing on there, which, by the way, would be a good point to also turn off the prop de-ice. Okay. So, we're now way on the way up here. Let's see, where is... Here's HumVOR. So that's what we're flying to. And, well, then I suppose we are going to do a couple of handling exercises with the Aerostar now. So, let's have some fun. So, autopilot off. As you can see, it very seamlessly disengages. And the first thing that I want to do is I'll bring it right back down to 12,000 feet of altitude here, or rather flight level 120. And then we're going to do a little bit of stall exercises. So, let's get her level. Let's trim her out. Alright, this is looking quite good. More or less stable. I like it. Alright, so we'll pull the engine power back a little, but not like all the way, because I don't want to shock cool the engines here. So we'll just go down here, and then let's start pulling off a little bit of speed. This is what it looks like. And you can hear the buffeting. I'm pulling more and more to hold it. And bye-bye. But as you can see, really nice to recover. It responds very, very well. Alright. Let's try the same again. And this time, I'll actually try to maintain wings level by using a bit of rudder. So left rudder, nope, she goes over the wing. And here we go. Alright, let's do the same in landing configuration. As far as I'm aware, there is no altitude limit for extending the flaps on the gear. So let's go ahead. And the flaps, by the way, are a really interesting device in this airplane, because you can basically move them into any position that you can possibly think of. So the flap lever got 3 different settings. There's up, there's neutral, then there's down. And by moving it down, you start getting some flaps. Then you move it back to neutral, and that's where the flaps are going to stop. So that way you can set whichever flap setting you may possibly want. So that's quite the cool thing. That is really quite the cool thing over there. So let's go ahead and bring the flaps into like 20, then we'll go gear down. Wait for the landing gear to extend. You can already feel the additional drag that the airplane starts to develop. And then let's go down into landing configuration. So gear down, full flaps, here we are. And let's try another stall exercise in 11,000 feet. And here's the onset of buffeting. So let's gradually pitch down a bit, add some power. And here we are. Lost 100 feet, but apart from that, recovered. The reason why I want to do those exercises up here is because the next exercise may very well easily bring us towards a stall. And by the way, let's just do one shock stall, shall we? Straight into the buffet, and bye-bye. I just love doing this. Okay, so enough of the fun part. Gear up, flaps up, let's do steep turns. And most importantly, let's go back down to 10,000 feet, because otherwise we may eventually end up getting into trouble with the oxygen. So we'll fly heading 180. and then we'll get level in 9,000. Heading 180, 9,000 is a very good point to start this off with. Yeah, Tommy, hypoxia is a mindset. I'm not sure that everyone's going to agree, but I know where you're going. Alright, cool. So we're in 9,000, we're doing 180 knots. And then we are going to start with a steep turn to the left. The reason why those steep turns are such a good exercise is because you are really building up your instrument scan. So you got to maintain the bank angle, you got to look at the speed, you got to maintain the altitude, and eventually you got to roll out at the correct heading. So that really practices the instrument scan. Can very much recommend anyone doing this. We even do this on the airliners in the simulator, of course. Alright, so that was deep turn left. Let's do the same again to the right. And of course all of that while actually maintaining 9,000 feet. And you can see how much speed we are losing by doing those steep turns. Remember, we are still operating at maximum throttle here. Okay. And here we go. So, overall, the Aerostar handles really nicely. It really is a joy to fly. And Hornet, yeah, you can absolutely enter your own wake when doing those deep turns. In fact, when you fly them perfectly, then you are going to enter your own wake. And I felt it, but never too strongly. Okay, so while we're heading southbound again, let's go ahead and just see about the performance of the airplane. So we'll just trim it out. And by the way, it is really worth mentioning that the Aerostar is among the very few aircraft. There are others, even some developers of others in the chat right now, that trim properly. So just look at that. Just look at how nicely you can trim the aircraft. Flies precisely what we wanted to fly. Of course, we're still accelerating a bit, so we have to retrim it every now and then, but overall, flies very gently. I really enjoy this. I really do. Okay, so that's that. Let's go ahead and explore some cruise performance settings of the aircraft now. And for that, we'll just return into the product manual real quick. So down here it is. And then we're in roughly 10,000, lean to best economy, and well, I'm always a fan of the low RPMs. So 2,100 RPMs with 20 inches of manifold pressure. Come on, aircraft. So let's do 20 inches. Like this, and then we'll reduce to 2,000 RPMs. Like this. And it should be 2,100 RPMs. My apologies for that. Let's add a bit more power. Okay, this is looking fantastic. And Michael, you're completely right, and we should be leaning the engine a little bit as we're climbing up high, but since I was about to do some very power-intensive maneuvers, I didn't lean them just yet. Okay, so let's bring it back onto heading and onto altitude, and when it is, then we are going to start some leaning. And then we'll just see how the airplane is going to perform. So, heading, altitude, autopilot. Come on, you're not supposed to be climbing. But I'm very sure it is going to recapture it. Yep, it is. Okay, so let's go ahead and lean. So we'll press the lean find button over here. And now we'll just make sure the power is correctly set, which it is. And then we can start reducing our mixture. You will see the fuel flow drop there, and the EGT eventually starts to rise. And we'll keep going over here until the EGT is going to start dropping again. That's going to be our peak. And I think we've just found it right over here. Alright, that's peak EGT. Now we increase the mixture again until we reach an EGT at about 50 degrees colder than the peak. Oh, so much the theory says. Why isn't this responding? Here we go. But I think that was a little bit too much. Like, according to the book, we should be using 18.1 gallons total, so that's 9 gallons per side. Let's just go ahead and pull it back to 9 gallons, see what's going to happen. Something like that. Look at that, we're losing quite a bit of speed here. Let's do the same on the other side now, see if we get any better results over here. Now I am going a little bit quick here, but we want results, do we? So, very slow, and here we go, that's the peak EGT. So, increase again. That's looking better. That is looking better. So, something at about 9 point a bit gallons per hour, and that is quite okay. Now, for the speed, looking down here, ground speed outbound from the station, 189. Including a little bit of wind, that brings us to within 10 knots of the target setting. Okay. And Tommy, the manual says 11 gallons per hour. The engine manual. Okay, that's interesting. Let's see what the product manual says again. I mean, maybe it's me who's too silly to read a chart, could very well be. So, if we look over here, mixture lean to best economy for 10,000 feet. Then let's zoom in a bit so that we can actually read it. Then we got 2120. And you're actually right, it should be 20 gallons per hour, so 10 per engine. And just looking at the comments down there. Okay. So, well, overall we aren't off by too much. I tend to say this is kinda okay. Let's try to put them up to 10 gallons. See what results we are going to get. That looks quite good. And that brings us right to peak EGT. Okay. So that doesn't look too shabby, does it? Now, shall we kill an engine? I think we shall. Alright, let's do it the correct way though. So we'll go right down into the Aerostar app and the emergency checklists. Engine failure during flight. Now the first thing that I'm going to do, we'll be killing engine number 2 today. So we'll be killing the right engine. So let's go ahead and first of all make sure that we've got enough mixture that we can increase the power in a few moments, because that's what the checklist will ask us to do. Alright, so for the emergencies, prop and throttle full forward. Okay, so we'll bring that full forward, and we'll also bring the props up to 24. I don't want to kill the engines after all. At least not physically kill them. Okay, here we go. So then, gear is up, flaps are up, and the lever can go back to neutral. Okay, so, in-up engine feather, and we are going to kill engine number 2. Now, for the fun of it, I'll turn the autopilot off so that you guys are able to see how the airplane is going to respond aerodynamically. Then, engine number 2 is dying. I'm not doing any inputs, just watch at how the airplane responds. And now let's start controlling it, just to be sure that we are not going out of control here. So, here we go. Let's continue. So, in-up engine feather, and that left is clearly working, right is down, so confirm, right engine confirmed, feather. You can immediately feel how we are gaining back some, I'll call it power, you know what I mean. And that's not looking too shabby. Actually almost able to maintain altitude. Okay, so best angle of climb speed 104, best rate of climb 113, operative engine boost pump on, so that's the left engine which is still operating. Then let's turn that boost pump on down here. Okay, trim as desired, in-up engine mixture idle cutoff, so right side confirmed, idle cutoff, and now, as you can see, the engine stops. Very nice, and that gives us the least amount of drag on that side. Okay, and like that, we can actually still fly. And Alpha Apollo, how would the engine still spin at 2400 RPMs if it had no power? Well, that's quite easy. It wouldn't quite spin at 2400 RPMs, but it would definitely stay spinning unless you feather it. And we are going to see that in action in a moment when we restart the engine. But for the time being, let's continue securing it. So in-up engine mixture idle cutoff, in-up engine boost pump off, that's off, in-up engine fuel selector off, in-up engine magneto off, in-up engine alternator off, and land as soon as possible. Engine failure during flight checklist complete. Okay, and as you can see, she flies pretty nicely like this. And here we go with a dead engine. And I gotta say, I really like how the A2A flight dynamics are working over here. The plane is pretty controllable. You can see I've got like a constant left rudder input, of course, so that the plane stays under my full control here, but apart from that, you trim it out and then it flies just fine. Now let's go ahead and restart the right engine before it grows too cold here. And let's use the same moment in time here to fly closer towards our destination again. So direct Echo Delta Lima Delta, enter execute, track 327. Like that. Alright, cool. So let's go ahead and do the restarting feathered engine checklist. So, fuel selector on, boost pump on, mixture idle cutoff, throttle cracked, so magnetos both, so prop full forward, and this is when you will probably be able to see the engine start rotating again. So, prop is full forward. No, not yet. Okay, fair enough. Alright then, starter engage. Well, and as the engine rotates, which it does now, mixture on. Come on, how much does it need? Here we go, there it comes. Right into the limiter, of course. Alright, so manifold pressure 15. And then warm up at 2000 RPMs and 15 inches. Here we go. 2000 RPMs, 15 inches. Then I'm just going to take a little bit of a mixture out there. Okay, so oil pressure check for 25 psi, which we've got. Alternator on, trim set. And that's the restarting feathered engine checklist complete. So, as you can see, not so much of an event when you fail an engine up here, but believe me, we are now going to go. We're now going to go downstairs, do a couple of touch and goes. First with both engines to get the feeling for the airplane. Thereafter, including some engine failures during takeoff and landing, and that is when things are going to get much, much more interesting. But first things first, we actually got to get beneath the clouds, and well, for that we got to find a hole somewhere. So let's start reducing our power. Left engine, you come back down to 20, please. Like that. That's our hole. Now, we only got to be a little bit careful, because we are not supposed to be descending faster than 1,000 feet a minute. And with that, we're probably not going to get completely clean into this hole. Which doesn't mean that we can't try. This is dentist work now. So guys, be prepared to do a couple of Valsalva maneuvers. This would not be nice for the ears. Okay, so QNH 1025 is set. Don't do this at home, my friends. Don't do this at home. Of course, no private pilot would ever be doing that. And Tommy, yeah, you do have a point that full prop can't be correct, but that's what it says in the checklist. And not just in the checklist in the EFB, but also the checklist in the product manual. Now, I have not Googled for a real-life POH yet, so maybe there's something somewhere in there. Alright, tiny bit of clouds here, prop the eyes on. Listen to the sound of the wind as we're going at this very high speed. Nicely done. So let's just update that direct once. GPS, target track 326, like that. Oh yeah, casual VNE descent, you name it, Tommy. Alright. So, we've now had a look at a casual, leisurely cruise in flight level 90. Let's now see what kind of low-level performance the Aerostar can actually achieve. For that, we'll bring back the manual ones real quick. Then, 5,000 feet, that's the best we can get. mixture lean to best power, and we'll do 2400 to 2400, which should result in a true airspeed of close to 250 knots. But first let's make sure we don't fly against the Langenberger Sender. As one of my instructors used to say when I visited flight school, the last thing that goes through a pilot's brain is probably either the stabilizer, the APU, or an antenna. And that would be the antenna over here. Alright, nice. So cruise power is now set. We'll be making our way back towards our airport, and while we're doing that, let's put it on autopilot and just start a little bit of preparation and general talk about how we are going to fly the approach. So altitude hold, heading hold, and autopilot. As you can see, takes over really nicely. By the way, beautiful area that we're currently flying through. And I just gotta say that it looks fantastic in terms of what the simulator has to offer over here as well, doesn't it? Those trees, really good, really, really good. And Michael, prop full forward is the correct restart procedure from the real manual. Love to hear it. And guys, let's not do Airbus questions today. Let's keep it to what we got at hand and actually be flying this. Alright, cool. So let's look at that. 208 knots indicated. Now, if we were in 5,000 feet, it would probably be giving us a little bit better stuff, but it's fine for this kind of altitude. Alright, we don't want to fly into that chimney over there. Let's turn a couple of degrees left. Okay, so let's now talk about what we'll have at hand, and that's going to be doing a couple of touch and goes before coming back for some more engine out stuff. So, traffic pattern. Generally, the Aerostar is a really, really fast aircraft. For this reason, we want to be a little careful there. By the way, we can turn off the fuel pump again, so that we are back in normal cruise config. So, let's go ahead and have a look at the checklists. So the approach checklist is quite easy. Pumps on, mixture rich, fuel selectors on, flaps below 175 and gear below 157. And lastly, power to 100 knots for the final approach. Now, because this is a very fast airplane, we should be a little bit careful with the traffic pattern and what we can and what we can't do there. So generally, I want to keep it to about 120 knots on the pattern, because that's still going to be twice as fast as many of our contenders in the traffic pattern. Let's also turn the autopilot back off and take over manually again, because we are about to get close to our airfield. Now, 120 knots. What I tend to say, this isn't the official procedure, but it flies really nicely if you keep it at your standard cruise power setting, so 20 inches, 2100 RPMs, and then just go flaps 20. Works really nicely. Let me show you. We'll go down with the power, RPMs down to 2100. Like this. So here's the hills, there's the lake, then the airfield's got to be there. Down to 1200 feet, pattern altitude. Here we go. Okay, so we'll now get the speed below 176, then we're gonna go flaps 20, and then our airspeed is nicely coming down to about 140-ish, then lower the landing gear as we're approaching the downwind, and then you'll see that the airplane is going to settle down at about 120, like really, really nicely. We might have to convince it a little to lose that speed. Let's bring the power back down to 12 inches. You can see if you don't want to shock cool the engine, then it's really slow to respond. I mean, look at how slowly the speed is going down there. We're in 170 now. Let's bring the flaps up to 20, and then we are really going to start losing speed. Here we go. So that's better, isn't it? Let's go ahead and turn downwind. So speed is below 157, landing gear down. Then fuel pumps are on, tank selectors are on, prop de-ice is no longer needed. And here goes the speed. So let's turn base, start the descent. Flaps full. There we go, speed down to 100. And there is our runway on the left. Pretty hard to fly the final turn correctly here because it's just so difficult to see outside, which ends up in slight overshoots. Okay, so 100 knots, nicely established, trim it out, and this is going to be a touch and go. Power idle. And I really like the flare model. Flare, hold, lose the speed, kiss the ground. Okay, flaps back up towards 20. Here we go, and set thrust. Power set, 85, rotate. And you can see with the flaps in 20, it goes airborne a lot quicker than it did with the flaps up that we did previously. So tap the brakes, gear up. Now we've got the speed. Flaps up. 400 AGL, set climb thrust, 24-24. Like that. Alright, let's do one more. So 100 to go, let's level off. Then we'll reduce the power. You can easily see how the airplane wants to accelerate, so let's get the flaps back down into the 20 position. That just controls it a lot nicer. Here we go, flaps 20. We can continue the turn right into the downwind because we are so fast. And here we are. Alright, so that was a pretty fun touch and go. On the next one, we'll try not to land that far into the runway. We'll try to make it a little bit more precise onto the numbers. The flight model is really well done. I mean, it's A2A, they just know how to do this. She really flies nicely. Well trimmed. Then let's go gear down. And look at that, I forgot to set my mixture to full rich. Okay, so here comes the road that we shouldn't overshoot. Down here, by the way, is a little airfield for toy planes, respectively for drones. Okay, so right along the road, keep the speed under control, trim it out, full flaps please. Speed at 100, that's nice, flaps are full now. Okay, let's do the next one. And this time we're gonna try and time that final turn correctly. Here we go. How can you tell someone's an airline pilot? They're flying 30 degrees of bank. But that looked alright. So, down into the puppy. And approaching the threshold. Idle. Feel how the airplane wants to descend when you go idle. That's just nicely done. Okay, number 2. So let's do one more. This time I'll retract the flaps completely. Here we go, flaps are up. Set power. And now watch how the airplane doesn't really want to lift off at 85. Look at that, it sticks to the ground for a little, and only then it lifts off. That feels really nice. So, positive climb, tap the brakes, and gear up. Up to 120 knots. Here we are, and then we can go into a little bit of a steeper climb. $600, reduce power, and Tommy, the bank angle limit is actually 30. However, many say don't use more than 25, so that you leave yourself a bit of a margin. Alright, so let's level off in 12, reduce the manifold pressure. And then what I'm going to do to control it a bit better is I'll just go flaps 20 straight away. Like that. And now look at that. Now she flies really nicely. Now you can actually tame her. Okay, so we're in downwind. There's that industrial complex that we are supposed to fly over. Just such a fast airplane. Okay, so this one we are going to do a full stop, and then on the next we'll actually do an engine failure. So, gear down. I think we're fairly familiar with how the airplane handles now, so I actually feel kinda secure enough to show an engine failure and hope that I'm not going to show you guys how to fly yourself into a tree. After all, there are no mountains around, and you know what that means for German pilots. No mountains, no go. So we can't be crashing that airplane today. Okay, so flaps full. Now look at how I don't even need to change my power setting here when the flaps are coming to full. That's so much additional drag. Alright. Then let's turn final. A little bit of power to make sure that we keep the speed at 100. Looking good. Alright, one more attempt to put it down right onto the numbers. That is looking nice. Idle. Props forward. And well, not perfectly on the numbers, but good enough for my taste. Alright, so let's taxi back to the holding point and talk a little bit about an engine failure during takeoff and what's so special about it and where the problems with those multi-engine aircraft are when an engine goes down in takeoff. So just like with an airliner, the problem with an engine failure is not that you're losing 50% of your climb capability. The problem is that you are now dragging along that extra engine, which produces a lot of additional drag. So rather than losing 50% of power when the engine goes out, you are losing like 80% of power. You will see that in a few moments when we are going to cut that engine and then just see what is not going to happen. The plane will barely climb at all, I can tell you that much. Alright, so here we are. Let's do a very quick run-up just to make sure that we didn't wreck any magnetos. Because the last thing I want is to kill the second engine as well. So, parking brake is set. Let's stow that tablet for the time being. So, all levers are forward, magnetos are on both, fuel pumps are on. Let's just do a very quick run-up here, up to 2100 RPMs. And Oscar, hi, welcome to the chat. This is in 24 right now. And no, I don't use German in my videos because I want to keep them for an audience as wide as possible. Okay, so here we are at 2100. Let's do right, both, left, both, right, both, left, both. Okay, our engines are still in a good shape. That's what I wanted to see. So, down to 1000 RPMs, like that. Nice. Okay, so, flaps are gonna come up. We'll be doing flaps up, takeoff as standard. Now, let's talk about the engine failure. So, we got to know part of the engine failure procedure by heart, at least the initial part. And that's this. So, prop and throttle, full forward, gear up, flaps up, in-up engine feather. Anything below that, you can do later on. But anything on those 4 points that you get wrong, and you're done for. You're really, if you don't do these 4 points, you're done. And I take that as a challenge. Park and brake off. Let's give it a go. So, we had 55 minutes here. Let's reset that. Because we want to know how long we can keep the engine on takeoff thrust. The limit is 5 minutes. And we need that timer to stop those 5 minutes. Okay. So, let's set that heading buck to the runway heading. The same goes down here. Okay, here we go. So, that's looking good so far. Then, let's give it a go. Power set. We'll be gentle on the first one. 85. Rotate, and engine failure. Oops. So, positive climb, brakes, gear up. You can see how the thing makes problems here. Okay, so it's the right engine that's down. Confirm, right engine confirmed. Feather. And only now you can see how we start building up some speed and how we are gradually, slowly starting to climb out above the trees. And look at that. Very, very slowly climbing above the trees. So now we got the speed at 104. That's good, let's maintain that. And with that we get about 400 feet a minute. And of course I forgot to start the timer. And Josh, how would we do this in a single engine plane? Well, land straight ahead. And if you can't find a place to land, then put it in the trees. You have no choice there. So, nice and steady 500 feet a minute. That looks okay. Now we want to make sure that we are not going to kill the remaining engine. So, since we're at a safe altitude now, some would climb to 1000 AGL. You can from 400 AGL. Let's reduce thrust on our remaining engine slightly to climb thrust. So 24, 24. Here we go, 24 and 24. Okay. Which takes away another 100 or 200 feet a minute. And the lamer TM, that probably isn't an issue in the B-52. Yeah, I hope so. Now, small little story from my flight training. I was about one of the last students who was actually allowed to shut an engine down in flight in real life, in flight training, in the PA 34. In the Piper Seminole. I don't care the numbers, it's been a while. I was one of the last to actually be allowed to shut down an engine on the Seminole. And we had a small problem. It wouldn't come back on again. And the Seminole is an airplane that is theoretically supposed to climb at a couple hundred feet a minute, but practically not going to. Indeed, we were forced to descend at like 100 or 200 feet a minute. Made it nicely into Dienstlaken over here, but yep, thereafter no further student was allowed to shut down an engine in the real aircraft anymore. Okay, so we finally made it up to traffic pattern altitude. I am going to fly a very extended pattern here. Normally we would go over here and then cut the pattern short over here. On a single engine we are definitely going to extend this quite a bit further. We don't need to fly over the village, but let's fly along the left side of that road over here. Keep the plane level, like this. Now, here's the problem. You can see we are running maximum continuous power right now. And you can also see it barely goes above 125 knots. You can imagine what that means for actually flying the approach. Well, let's find out. So, give me flaps 20, please. Here we go, that's flaps 20. As you can see, the plane isn't particularly happy. Now, let's turn final and take the gear down. And once the gear comes down, there is only one way to go for us. Down. And you can of course imagine what every pilot has to do on the first attempt single engine. You always know that that's gonna come when you're in the recurrent sim. So let's go flaps full. You don't have to, but it's kind of interesting to fly the plane like that. You can actually cheat a bit. If you go flaps full, it works a bit like a speed brake while you just leave the engine at maximum power. When you need to extend your glide a bit, return to flaps 30. When you need to shorten it, go flaps 40. That way you can kind of nicely steer the vertical path. But look at this, man. Look at this. This is maximum continuous power. We're descending right about to the runway. Alright, go around flaps. And you really mean it with the flaps here. So, gear up. And I didn't mean to take the other engine out of feather. That's the problem with my key assignments at the moment. Here we go. So look at that. Come on, flaps. Why are you... Oh no. This is a problem. We killed the circuit breaker at the flaps. They're stuck in 10. And we can't do anything about it. Get down. This is a problem now. And let's put her on the field. Okay, welcome. So yeah, we probably ran out of hydraulic pressure there. Auxiliary pump, well, that was a little bit too late. Not much we could do about this. But as you can see, that's the type of quick decision making that at some point in your pilot's career you might just have to do. At least we got the gear out, so we'd probably be able to get the airplane out from this again. Removing a couple of dents. But yeah, that's what you get. The engine is still feathered, so that wasn't a problem. But those 10 degrees of flaps completely prevented us from climbing out over here. Okay, well, that was an interesting one for sure. Let's actually go ahead and reset that, and let's just do a little reset over here for the flight, so that we get back to the airport, shall we? Or shall we do it really interesting, start that engine and try and take off from the field? You guys cast a little vote down there in the comments. I'm interested in your opinion. Reset the flight back to the airport, or try and take off from the field? I'm waiting for your comments. Keep them coming, keep them coming. Okay, that was very clear. Everyone says field. Okay, very, very clear. Very, very clear. And Tommy, I like you. Cartel style. I tell you what, we'll do cartel style. So, give me that. Fuel payload. Let's make that a nice cartel. So that ride's got to be worth it, after all. And we'll bring it right up to max takeoff weight. We'll pretend the cartel cares about that. Here we go. So, right at the max takeoff weight, 5,500 pounds. Okay, so, I suppose we don't have a checklist for restarting a feathered engine on the ground, but we'll just do it the same way we would in the air, even though we don't have the airflow to help it rotate, but the starter is gonna do. So, first of all, we actually gotta secure this. So, let's actually bring all those switches back into a proper position here. And gotta open the throttle slightly, like that. Okay. Alright, so circuit breakers are all in. Good. So that's gonna be an interesting one. Let's go ahead and start that. So, checklists before engine start. Pre-flight, well, the drugs are on board, passengers briefed, seatbelt secured, cabin door closed and locked, battery and ignition are off. So, landing gear switched down, the gear is down, flaps are, well, at like 10 degrees or so. We'll see about that later. Okay, brakes. are tested, and we should probably set the parking brake over here, even though without hydraulic pressure that's probably not going to do much. So, flight controls. Are free, parking brake set, switches all off, then battery on. Landing gear lock lights are all on, all three of them. Elevator and rudder trim neutral, almost at least. Let's turn on the trim. Here we go, neutral. Okay, so hydraulic shutoff is open, fuel checked, fuel low warning off, circuit breakers in, altimeter and clock set, and that the before engine start checklist complete. So let's give this a go and see what's going to happen. And before we do that, a little comment from Oscar in the chat. Would you in real life turn off the fuel pump as quickly as possible to prevent a fire? Well, you would mostly turn off the fuel over here. And then, of course, get the mixture in the cutoff. And then the fuel pumps, yes. Followed by the magnetos. Okay. So, let's go. Let's give this a go. Engine start checklist. Prop full forward, mixture, idle cutoff, throttle, cracked, battery on, low fuel warning, out. Where are we here? Fuel selectors. So, that's on, and that's on. Alright, so right boost pump on. Mixture full forward, we do have fuel flow, we do have fuel pressure, and off again. Okay, right starter, let's see if we can start it while feathered. Yes, we can. Carefully got to keep the RPMs under control here while the engine unfeathers. But this is looking quite good. Alright, cool. So we've got that engine running again. Let's try the other one. And alternator on, and gyro pressure is checked. Good. So, engine number 1, please. Fuel pump on. Let's prime it. Here it comes, and nicely priming. And we'll switch that one back to idle. Alright, so. Alright, here we go. So we now got 2 running engines again. Alternator on, and that's everything we needed down here. So, electrics are going back on. Good old cartel style, we are of course going to turn the transponder off. And then let's go ahead and find the proper direction to take off from this field, shall we? So, parking brakes off. Probably want to take off into the wind, so that means backtracking the field as far as possible. Avoiding those things is going to be the most interesting part of it all. So, do you guys remember the original manual that we had a look at? Do you remember the short field takeoff distance of 1,000 feet? That's going to be... And we don't want to go flying over here. I think something like that. Followed by an immediate right-hand turn out over there. Or actually, if we go over here, we get a little bit more takeoff distance. Let's actually do that. really want to go through here carefully without damaging the engines. And let's do that 180. Alright. I think this is about as good as it's gonna get. Okay. Start on the parking brake. Then very quick warm up and run up. So warm up at 1000 is not really going to be needed. The engines are still warm. No, you've not been refilled. Exit. Okay, so 1500 RPMs. And boy, look at that. The left engine is, or rather the right engine, is not running as well as the left one with the same power settings down here. Are both on both magnetos, are they? Yes, they are. Okay, well, let's see what we can actually get from the right engine. Let's only increase power on the right one. See if we can get takeoff power. Nope. What if we cycle the prop? Probably damaged it quite a bit. No, right engine is not giving us full power. Okay, well, we gotta make it to a field so that we can start some repair works. In the meantime, we do have hydraulic pressure again, so let's bring those flaps down to 20. Like that. Okay. And see now, I'm avoiding the road because it's not very even. I'm kinda afraid that the sim's just going to throw us into the air and then back to the ground. Alright. I'll tell you what. Seeing this difference of 200 RPMs, I'm not very inclined to, you know, try my luck and even do a run-up, because I'm a little afraid the engine might fail at any point. So let's do what the good cartel would do and what the good drug dealer would do. That's all the lights except the beacon off. Pitot heat can come on. And we've got full mixture, full props, everything looking good. So, power is set. Maybe that right engine helps itself? Now, let's not fuck with it. Brake off, let's go. Ooh, that may be our 8. Nope. Come on, come on, come on. Yes, we got this. Here we go. Positive climb, tap the brakes, gear up. And look at that, the right engine is also coming back up again. Okay, so we got the speed, we got the altitudes. Let's set climb power. So, 24, 24, flaps up. Okay, so that was fun. That was fun. Josh, we are not gonna answer that question. And the chat won't either. Okay, so there's the field. At least I think it is. And Jake the Off-Geek, new flight series, smuggling goods in the future. You know, YouTube likes demonetizing channels because they're showing illegal activity. I'm not sure if simulating illegal activity falls into that, but I'll definitely keep the idea. Guys, I just told you no speculation about the airline. And that means I've got no choice but to enforce it. Okay, so there's an airport. Here's the downwind. And don't worry guys, I'm not banning anyone here. I just had to remove those messages. Alright, so I definitely do want to do that engine out sequence again, because it was fun, wasn't it? Even though it wasn't what I originally intended to do on a stream like this, but we got this, do we? So we'll do a full stop landing, and then we're going to come back for a takeoff, and we'll have an engine failure on that takeoff. Okay, so flaps 20 please. Here we go. Alright, gear down. And Josh, I fully agree with you. The plane does look really good, and it flies even better. The flight dynamics are really a point where all those A2A products, the Comanche as well, just really shine. Okay, so flaps full. And then we can start turning final. Yeah, take that, stupid farmer. This would be easier with a head tracker, but I don't want you guys to just see stuff like this. So little inaccuracies when flying have to be acceptable here. Okay, so idle, props forward. And let's try to put her on the numbers. Well, this would have been good to the point where we bounced. Okay, so we're back down. Let's go ahead and do that one more time. And this time we'll get the engine failure right. See, we're still learning. Even though with those spotters over there, I'm not 100% sure if we shouldn't continue learning elsewhere, but no, I like this airport, so we'll be staying here. And Elesto, do I think that this would have even worked in the real world, getting her off that field? Honestly, she would probably have had a dent or two that we should have carefully inspected first. And what you would have done in the real world is to get someone with a trailer and a screwdriver, take the wings off, and bring her back to the airfield in pieces, and then reassemble her there. And in the best case, reassemble her at a field where she can undergo very intensive repair works. Okay, so we'll stop over here and set that park and brake. Now, let's do a little run up, because I just want to be absolutely sure that the remaining engine isn't going to fail me when we do this. We've had our one occasion in the field by now. So, left engine. Looks good. Right engine. Looks good. And we'll just go through the props once as well. Not that this will be needed, it isn't. But it just builds confidence to see that all those controls are still working after this little excursion into the field. Alright. So, that looks good so far. Let's give this a go. Same thing as before, but this time without the trees and the fields. And this time we actually have sufficient hydraulic pressure as well. To enhance the fun though, I am going to make this a flaps 20 takeoff. Just to increase the drag a bit. Alright. So, we definitely have enough hydraulic pressure this time. Let's go. Timing. Takeoff. Power set. Rotate. Engine failure. Okay. So, positive climb, gear up, flaps up, and it's the left engine that's down, so... Oh, hello. Stop. See? That's why when I said we should abort the takeoff, we should have aborted the takeoff. Come on, just stop moving, please. It's like the propeller dragging the plane along now. Alright, this is fun. Alright. Stop, stop. Silence. Kindly stop, please. Hello? See, that's why I said you should abort that takeoff. Come on. Kindly stop. And trust your balls, put the parking brake on to stop sliding. Well, with the landing gear not even extended, I'm not 100% convinced. But can you hear the different sounds whether you're sliding across the grass or the asphalt? That's a nice little feature. Okay, well, let's see. If we put the power back on and extend the landing gear, is something gonna change? Oh yeah, hello. Okay. Wow, that was interesting. Hey Lesto, I like that one. From pilot to becoming a sailor. And yeah, Jake, not a bug, but a feature. Okay, well, then let's go ahead and do something a little bit more realistic again, shall we? So, one more attempt at an engine start. Okay, so battery on, beacon on, all the rest is off, all the rest is looking good. And that is looking good. Alright. So, let's do that one more time. So, fuel is on, fuel pump on, let's prime it, let's crack the throttle. And that is looking good. Okay, so back off and engine starter. So, good start on the right engine. Now let's do the same with the left engine. So, priming. First coming up. And close, and then let's go. Here we go. Firing and mixture. Here we go. Looking good. 2 good engine starts. So, electrics on, flaps are up as they should be, and all the rest is set. Alright, good. So, I suppose we'll just release our parking brake, taxi back to the holding point, and this time I want to see if flap 20 takeoff, and if an engine failure on a flap 20 takeoff can actually be flown. And Oscar, no, I've definitely never had a real-world engine failure. One thing that I did have was during my flight training, where we shut down an engine intentionally. And then it failed to restart. Okay, so let's put those flaps on a 20. Here we go. Still have enough hydraulic pressure, that's looking good. Okay, here we are. So, parking brake set. Let's do a quick check. So, pitot heat is on, the rest is all set, fuel pumps are on. Okay, that's all looking good. So, let's give it a go. And let's actually just quickly make sure the trim is set to neutral. Okay, so next attempt, second attempt. Brakes released, everything down here is set, take off. Rotate, engine failure. Okay, positive climb, tap the brakes, gear up, flaps up, and feather number 1. Ooh. And we stalled her. But she's flying again. Okay, ground effect is our friend. But, as you can see, really problematic. Oh yeah, we hit the trees. Okay, I don't see us getting out of this again. Well, so let's take a moment to think. Well, the first thing I'm going to do is to, yeah, come on. Here's your landing gear. Be quiet. So, while we're getting her out of the trees, let's think a second about if we did anything wrong. So, we reset, or we pulled the throttle during rotation. Raised the gear, raised the flaps, like the procedure says. And this time I actually feathered the engine pretty early, so Still, the plane got stuck in ground effect. You tell me, guys, did we do anything wrong there? Like, did we do any procedural error or something? And, great suggestion. We can use GSX to teleport back to the runway. Runway 26, start, want me there. That was a good one. Thank you for that. And Alan, in regards to the flaps, you know, we couldn't even climb with the drag of having the flaps out, so I don't think it would have made much of a difference. In the meantime, let's go ahead and restart those engines real quick. So, priming, looks good. Crack and start. Come on. Then we'll do it the dirty way. Here we go. So, engine 2 is running. You can stop, please. Alternator on. Let's do the same on the left side here. Prime. Looking good. And start. Okay. And Dreadnought. Yeah, coordinate flight may really be the only explanation that I see here as well. I suppose we're gonna try one more time. So let's get those flaps in a 20. Like that. So, plane is in trim. Down here, everything's set. Going over the switches. Everything is set. We can prepare the timer. And everything else is looking good. Very quick check of the engines. And Simao, it has to be the weight. Well, I don't think so. We are... Look at that. We are below the max takeoff weight and we're within the legal CG, so that can't be the problem. Alright, engines are running the same now. Ooh, that magneto is a little damaged here on the left engine. Look at that. Well... give it some power. Let's try and get that magneto back. And driver 99, the runway length shouldn't be the problem. I mean, we should be legal to take off on like a 300-meter runway. So that shouldn't be the problem. Normally. I don't care about that broken magneto now. We can fix that later. Let's try the same on the other engine. That looks good. That looks good. Okay, now we know that we'll have to fail engine number 1 because number 2 is more reliable right now. Okay. So yeah. We'll try that one more time. I'll tell you what, this time we'll fail the engine a slight bit later, after we've already gained a couple feet, just to see if that makes a difference. So we're at flaps 50, landing gear is down, the lever is down as well. Always a good idea to make sure that those two match. And then let's give this a go. So, timing. Power set. rotate, and fail left. Alright, positive climb, gear up, flaps up, and it's the left engine, so feathering left. Look at that, we're stuck. Doesn't climb. And now come the trees. Yeah. And we are losing a wing. So, yeah. That's not working. Thank you. Oh, let's put that gear down. Here we go, that's better. Yeah, I don't know what it is. It just really gets itself stuck in that corner that it's not climbing out of. And we're on an insanely long runway here with 1,500 meters. Let's try one more time without flaps, because now I really want to find out. Okay, so you go up, you go down, pump is on. It would have primed all the time, so let's open that throttle. Here we go, both engines running. Okay, let's do this one more time. This time the flaps are up and they stay up. Okay. Trims are set, everything else is looking good. By the way, this feels just like flight school. You mess up. In this case, though, it's probably not me. I'm sure there will be a lot of analysis past the live stream. Well, and then we'll give this a try. Let's see. Power set. Go. Rotate. Engine failure. So. Now we're losing so much power. On this occasion I didn't even retract the gear because I immediately saw we were not climbing. Okay. Interesting. Really interesting. Let's try something. We didn't break that engine completely, nor did we break this one. So it's not the engines. But what else? And CMEO, in regards to the rotation speed, got that right over here. So, takeoff, rotate VR, 85 knots and max takeoff weight. So that should be correct. But yeah. I'm trying to think what this could be, but... Michael, maybe try 10 degrees flaps. We can do that. Even though we just did flaps up and it didn't work either, but let's go. Here we go, 10 degrees of flaps. Let's try again. So, power set, park and brake off. Takeoff. 5, rotate. Engine failure. So, positive climb, gear up, flaps up, and feather left engine. Well, this time we are climbing a little, but still insufficient to get above the trees. Yeah. Yeah, we can do better than that. But I really gotta say, I'm a bit clueless. Oops, that was the wrong engine. Number 1, start. And Dreadnought 396. Blue line isn't drawn on here, but the VYSE is 104 knots. So up here, 104. The problem is, the rotation speed is 85, according to the manual. Then it should absolutely be possible to take off, and we got a distance of 2 kilometers until we end up in those trees. And Federico, the flaps up immediately is because of the additional drag. It just won't climb with flaps. I mean, we can try. Let's put him into 20 and keep him there. But the checklist says flaps up immediately. Okay, so let's do that one more time. So, everything set, parking brake released, and take off. This time we're going to keep the flaps extended, contrary to the manual, but let's see. So, rotate. Engine failure. Positive climb, gear up. But see, we end up in the same situation, where we basically get stuck. Not climbing, no nothing. I mean, a little bit. Let's be fair, credit where credit is due. Okay, so let's give it a little more acceleration here. Speed is looking good, flaps up. So, reaching VYSE, 104. Let's try to climb. But look at this, man. This is not right. I mean, look at that angle. This is full power. There's nothing more that I can do. So let's try to get her back to the field. Oh, why did the number one come back? So let's just stop that engine entirely. Okay. This time it might have been the fact that we didn't feather it. Even though we are just gaining 200 feet a minute. Should give us a little bit more, but it's something at least. So there's a runway. I'll tell you what, let's just keep that throttle and just take the landing gear instead. And flaps down. Okay. So let's just park it in front of the tower over here, and then we'll take a moment to discuss what we're gonna do next. Alright, here we are. So, park and brake set. And so yeah, he should have been up. Okay, so that's that part. I'm not done yet. I'm really not done yet, because it is just a lot of fun to fly this. But I think we can agree that those engine failures were a little bit of a problem. Funnily enough, I did like 4 engine failures before even starting the live stream, and I had no problem on any of them whatsoever. But I'm not sure if I did some with the flaps extended. Well, so guys, what are we gonna do next? Just a little cross-country flight from A to B? And Shubham, this is Dienstlaken Schwarze Heide, Echo Delta Lima Delta. And Simao, the attempts before the stream were close to max takeoff weight, but not completely max takeoff weight. Okay, I see a couple of votes for doing this, I see a couple of votes for doing a little bit of cross-country there, and I suppose we'll do that. So, what we're going to do is a little flight from Dienstlaken to Düsseldorf, followed by a low approach over there, and then back to Dienstlaken. And I think after that, we are finally going to go to the giveaway. But let's go ahead and start with a bit of planning. So, Navigraph charts, flights, and unload this one, please. New flight. How can I... Let's do it that way. Enter text route. Echo Delta, Lima Delta. Direct to... Echo Delta, Delta, Lima. Direct to... Echo Delta, Lima, Delta. Okay. Enter. Done. Here we go. So, options... Oh, hello. That's nicer. This is going to be VFR flight. And we will be entering the control zone via November, which is over here. And we'll add that to the route. And we'll do that before Düsseldorf. And we'll add that to the route again and after Düsseldorf. Okay. Nice. So this is going to be a route of flight. I think we got that. Think we got that for now. Okay, so let's go ahead and take this one, Dienstlaken, south to Düsseldorf, entering and exiting via November. A little low pro drop there, and then all the way back to Dienstlaken. And in that, we'll try to do everything from that we would do on a normal A to B flight. Okay. So I suppose we can skip over the walk around because we had done one earlier, but let's just do the most important points here. So, and this time we're going to do the walk around the proper way, by the way. So, starting on the front, static port is clear. Then I look at the landing gear down there, making sure that everything's fine and everything is looking good here. We could definitely clean that airplane again. Might do it right at the end of the stream. After all, you're not supposed to leave the next pilot to dirty airplane. So, static port is clear down here. Then let's have a look at that engine and have a look at the oil. I just totally love the fact that they simulated it like this. This is really good. So, oil quantity is still good. The oil isn't black either, so that's okay. Let's put that right back in. And here we go. So then, let's continue along the propeller. Leading edges are all good, no signs of cracks. We are not going to talk about if that is realistic or not after what we've done to the airplane, but that's fine. So, leading edge is looking good. Quick look into the fuel tank. And fuel is visually observed in there. Good. Then, trailing edge, everything looking good. Flaps are looking good. So, down here the vents are in an okay shape. Everything is checked up here. Then let's walk on to the other side of the aircraft. And that's all looking good as well. So, fuel tank is checked and observed full. Perfect, let's close that again. Alright, then we can walk along the trailing edge. Again, another fuel tank. And that's also observed fine as well. Perfect. Okay, so leading edge is looking good. Everything up here is looking perfect. The engine shouldn't be feathered at the moment, but I suppose for our purposes that's going to be fine. Then on oil exhaust doors on this side. Quick check inside. And that is looking fantastic. Alright, here we go. So with that, our walk around is complete. Let's go inside. And then we've done this. Now we are going to do this one on VATSIM, shall we? You guys do want to hear what it sounds like when we do this stuff with real ATC, do you? And if we're going to do it on VATSIM, then let's just go ahead and quickly pre-file a flight plan as well. So let me show you how I would be doing this. So here it is, call sign. This is going to be November. What are I actually sitting in? November 4 Lima November. So N4 Lima November. Flight rules are going to be VFR. Aircraft type is an Aerostar, which is, I think, Alpha Echo Sierra Tango. Yes, it is. Like that. Wake turbulence category is light. Then equipment standard, transponder standard, departure from Echo Delta Lima Delta, off block at, let's say, 1840 UTC. We'll be cruising at an altitude of 2,000 feet. Airspeed is going to be 180 knots. Oh, that might be a little bit fast. Here we go, 180. Arrival also Echo Delta Lima Delta, alternate Essen Mülheim, en route time 30 minutes, fuel endurance for 2 hours and 30, roundabout. Routing details, Düsseldorf, November, direct Düsseldorf, November. Okay, we can basically leave all the rest blank. Rec, November 4, Lima, November. And we can basically leave the rest blank. So let's file that flight plan. Here we go, flight plan filed. Perfect. So that's just the real easy way of filing such a flight plan. Nothing to worry about here. Alright, cool. So with that, we should be good to go. So let's go ahead and get started. So, before engine start checklist. Pre-flight complete, passengers briefed, seatbelt secured, cabin door closed and locked, battery and ignition switches are all off. Okay, gear switch down, then gear down, flaps are up, brakes tested, looking good, flight controls are free, park and brake is set, switches all off except for the beacon, and that is okay the way it is. Okay, so battery on, gear lock lights all on. So elevator and rudder trim neutral. Hydraulic shut-off valve open, fuel checked, fuel low warning off, circuit breakers in, and battery, sorry, altimeters and clock, come on, you stay where you are set, and we can reset you. Alright. Great, and that's the before engine start checklist complete. So let's go for the engine start, please. So the beacon is on down there. Okay, so engine start, prop full forward, mixture idle cutoff, throttle cracked, battery on, fuel low warning out, fuel selectors, cycle and listen. That sounds good. Okay, right boost pump on, right mixture full, and we can see that it is priming. Let's give it a couple seconds. Like this, looks good. Okay then, right starter engage. And when it fires, set the mixture on, throttle set for 1000. Okay, so right fuel boost off, gyro pressure checked, right alternator on, and repeat for left engine. So fuel boost on, let's prime it, and here we go, that's looking good. Engine back to idle. Alright, let's give it a little bit more of a cracked throttle here, and let's go. Are you coming? Still unfeathering. Here we go, looking fantastic. Okay, fuel boost off, gyro pressure checked, and alternator on. Engine start checklist complete. The rest comes later. So let's turn this on. Transponder standby, DG slave is on, all the rest is set. Then we're just waiting for the radios, or for the GPS to start up. And SI voltage, does it have failures and damage? Yes, it does. Not from crashing into trees, but you can control all of that through the menus over here. So on the controls down here you can control the failure rate, you can control the wear rate of the airplane and that kind of stuff. Okay. And here we go, GPS coming live. I'm going to do this exactly the way how we would be doing this in the real world. So let's pre-select the tower frequency, 18305. Then we also need the ATIS. That's going to be in the Navigraph charts, Düsseldorf. How can we open this quickest? Well, I don't care, let's do it this way. EDDL, Düsseldorf, open. Give me those charts, please. ATIS 12378. Ah, we can't pre-select on COM2. Okay, that's fine. Well, anyway, we have the chart ready if we need it. Good. Alright. Great, so GPS is live. Let's go ahead and reset that flight plan real quick. Delete yes, and new flight plan. Echo Delta Lima Delta to Echo Delta Delta Lima. Alright, and then back Echo Delta Lima Delta. Alright, that is looking good. Great, so down here we did not refill, so we can cancel that out, and the rest looks good. Then let's go ahead and taxi. Alright. Dienstland traffic November 4 Lima November. Piper Aerostar with 6 persons VFR to Düsseldorf, taxiing to runway 26. Okay, brake released. Brake check. Looking good. Let's go. So, instruments are all observed working. That looks good. Man, it reaches 30 knots so quickly. So Tommy, if you're still here, I am somewhat inclined to believe you that it accelerates a bit quickly. Like, should it taxi at 1000 RPMs? Probably. Should it accelerate that quickly? Probably not. But then again, the guys over at A2A have actually owned an Aerostar, so they would have first-hand knowledge on how the airplane should behave. Alright, let's stop it over here, and park and brake is set again. Okay, cool. So let's do the warm-up and run-up checklist. So warm at 1000 RPMs are done, engine temperatures are all checked. Then props full forward, mixture rich, throttle 1500 RPMs. Here we go. Okay. So, engine instruments are checked and voltage 28 is looking good. Then, throttle set for 2100 RPMs. Like that. Alright, magnetos. Left, both, right, both. Right, both, left, both. Okay, we don't need to cycle them, gyro pressure is checked, and then let's go back to 1000 RPMs. Emergency briefing, in case... Well, or general takeoff briefing. We're going to depart towards Düsseldorf, so leaving the traffic pattern via the upwind. Pattern altitude 1200, we'll climb altitude 2000 if the clouds allow that, otherwise we'll just stay below that. Apart from that, what are we going to do? So in case of an engine failure on takeoff, we now have plenty of experience. Keep the flaps out to get the airplane up. Well, flaps aren't going to be out at all on this takeoff, so basically keep the flaps where they are, slowly climb out, and that's it. We do know that we have a field slightly on the right side, we also have a field on the left side, so that is in our minds now. Apart from that, nothing special, nothing non-standard, so let's go ahead and get going with the before takeoff checklist. Cabin door, closed and locked, controls. Free, mixture, forward, fuel selectors are on. Okay, props, full forward, boost pumps are both on, instruments set, radios set, flaps up, trim set, pitot heat on, park and brake released, and the only remaining item is throttle full forward. Alright, looks good, then let's get going. Queensland traffic, November 4, Lima, November, line up and takeoff runway 26, departing to the south. Okay, transponder is on, we don't need the lights. Well, actually, I tell you what, if everyone else is flying real time, then they would have nighttime, so let's actually go ahead and turn those lights on. Just so that the other traffic sees us a bit better. Alright, so first course is going to be like, what's that? 195 degrees. Okay. Timing and takeoff. Power set. Rotate. Positive climb, tap the brakes, gear up. So, building up some speed. Here we go, 120. Start on the left turn. Passing 400 AGL, set climb thrust. So, 24 and 24. Here we go. And passing 1000 AGL. Fuel pumps off. Okay then, leaving the traffic pattern and setting our course towards Düsseldorf. Let's go ahead and listen to the ATIS real quick.
Than 500 feet. Overcast 4,000 feet. Temperature 2.12. QNH 1026. Trend, Nozick. When passing 2,000 feet, monitor advisory on 122.800.
So we gotta keep a little bit of distance here from the cloud base, so let's stay down here in 1700. Cruise power 20 inches, 21 RPMs.
Met report time 1820.
And we've got information hotel on board.
Automated weather message, expect vectoring for ILS approach. Runway 23 left. Runway is in use 23 left. Transition level 60. Wind 260 degrees 2 knots. Visibility 10 kilometers. Clouds. Scattered 1,300 feet. Broken 2,500 feet. Overcast 4,000. Temperature 2.12. QNH 1026. Trend,
1026 is set.
When passing
Alright, then we'll call tower.
56, confirm waybill for Tango and initial time 5,000 feet.
Seat the mess for Tango and initial climb 5,000 feet, easy for 56.
Easy 456, feedback correct.
Düsseldorf Tower, hallo, November 4, Lima, November.
November 4, Lima, November, Düsseldorf Tower.
November 4, Lima, November, Piper Aerostar, 6 persons from Dienstlaken, 3 minutes north of November for low approach.
November 4, Lima, November, Roger, and the runway 23 left, QNH 1026, entering control zone via November.
Runway 23 left, QNH 1026, entering control zone via November, approved, November 4, Lima, November. Okay, excellent. So, just a quick look at the chart. November routing takes us right from November southbound towards the midfield position to that holding point here, where the highway crosses that street between the two villages. Okay, so let's do a couple of checklists here. So, after takeoff, wheels brake, gear up, flaps up, climb checklist, maximum climb, fuel pump south, power reduced and trim set, and the cruise checklist, power set, mixture. I did lean a little bit, I don't want to make it like too much here. Fuel quantity monitor, fuel pump south, fuel pressure checked, engine gauges check, and cruise checklist complete. So November is basically marked by that railway bridge over here. Look at how nicely she flies. I just really like the flight dynamics of the Aerostar. It's really doing an awesome job at that. So there's the bridge, which marks reporting point November. Okay, and as soon as we're over it, we are going to report so. So basically when we're going to beam that railway line down here, that's when we are over at November. November 4, Lima, November, over at November in 1,700 feet.
November 4, Lima, November, Roger, fly direct to the shop final, runway 23 left.
Johnny final, 23 left, November 3, Lima, November. Okay, nice.
November, state attention after low approach.
After low approach, we'll leave the controls and again via November, November 4, Lima, November.
November 4, Lima, November, Roger.
Okay, so directly into the short final. However, let's ensure that we don't overfly all those villages here. We'll kind of take a path in the middle. Düsseldorf Airport is located right over there, immediately in front of us. So guys, do we do the low approach the official, legal way, or are we going to do the low approach the fun way? Put it into the comments. You got like a minute or so.
After low approach, right turn approved and fly direct to November.
November 4, Lima, November, runway 23 left, clear for low approach. After the low approach, right turn, direct November, approved. Okay, so let's do the approach checks, which are essentially fuel pumps on.
Easy for Kazakhstan,
And since we'll need some power, we'll also put the mixture on. Okay, I see 3 votes for fun, 1 vote for legal, and a lot more votes for fun. Okay, fun it is. Of course, I've never done this in the real world. I have never done this in the real world. Especially not at 200 knots. Okay, so set takeoff power. Power is set. So, how low can you go, sir? And here we go. So, no more than 2,500, and we must not touch the clouds. There's a hospital down there. I think that marks a very nice point to set course. Okay.
Only taxi turning point from to 3 left to Papa 4, Mike and Lima 1.
Then let's set cruise power again.
2-3 left, Papa 4, Mike and Lima 1. Eurowings,
Changing power right over the hospital. That's the fun way. And here we go, everything set. Alright, so let's set the course right back up north. Oh, that was interesting. That was quick. Here we go. That's what we're looking for. Perfect. And then we can lean it back down to about 10 gallons when using this power setting. That works quite well. Here we go. That's leaning on short-haul flights. Alright. So, I definitely enjoyed that one. Alright guys, so once we're back down in Dienstlaken, we are going to get to the giveaway. 3 copies of the Aerostar. And, well, even though we did have a little bit of problem, and even though we spent quite a significant part of the live stream, much more than I would have liked, on actually investigating the problem we've had with the single engine takeoff, I still think this is an absolutely magnificent aircraft, very well worth the 1,000, did I say 1,000? No, the 49.99 that it costs. What on earth led me to say 1,000? Now there are some expensive add-ons around, but definitely not this one. This is completely worth the price, really. It's a very easy to handle airplane. You could see how we could just turn the engines on and off, do all that handling in, you know, a matter of seconds to turn it on and off, and it is really nicely simulated. The flight model is fantastic. I mean, look at this. The only one thing that we might have to talk about is that one engine out configuration that we ran into. But apart from that, really a lot of fun to fly. So, hugely recommended aircraft from my side. And if you think so as well, then now's your chance to win 3 copies of the Aerostar. So what we are going to do is we are going to bring the airplane down, we'll park it at the gate, and then it's going to be up to you guys answering questions of some of the aircraft knowledge that I shared during this live stream. November 4, Lima November, all red November, request to leave.
4, Lima November, Roger, frequency change approved, definitely beginning, bye bye.
Frequency change approved, vielen Dank, schönen Abend, November 4, Lima November. Dienstlaken traffic, November 4, Lima November, Piper Aerostar, 6 persons, VFR from Dienstlaken, 5 minutes south for landing. And na cool, I'm afraid the NDB approach is not really an option at the moment, because Düsseldorf doesn't have them anymore, as far as I'm aware, and I don't think Dortmund still has them. But we can definitely do a live stream doing flying with an airplane like this in IFR in the future. So if you want that, we can absolutely do that. Now this one, under US standards, could actually get IFR certification. Under European standards it couldn't, because you don't have a second altimeter. Perhaps that's something that they could add with a future version there, but you get the idea. Okay, and don't ask me how I know this route so well. Might have flown that once or twice in the real world. By the way, very, very nice look out here. A little bit of fog coming in over the Rhine, so definitely a good moment to get the airplane back onto the ground. So the way we're going to do the giveaway is that I will ask a question on the live stream. So what I recommend you guys to do now is just to press the F5 key to be sure that you're at the very latest stage of the stream and not lagging back anywhere. And whoever puts the correct answer, or the closest to correct answer, in there first is going to win a copy. 3 copies to be given away, and whoever wins one of them, please do contact me with a proof of your identity, like a screenshot from your YouTube channel page or something, even though there must not be any active content in it, but just a screenshot from that channel page so that I know that it is like really you and not someone impersonating you, and then I'll make sure that you are going to get your copy. And Thomas, that question is not going to be answered in today's flight. And no, a correct answer is not going to get you a copy of an A330. Most definitely not a real world one. Alright, so here's the lake that we're going to fly towards. Now let's go ahead and start slowly bringing the power back so that we start losing some speed, descending down into the pattern altitude, and make this a nice and controlled approach. Look at how nicely the airplane responds. You pull a bit of the power, it starts going into a shallow descent here. Flight dynamics are just really fantastic. And the Gigliotis, my apologies if I didn't pronounce that right. Yes, this is Sim Update 4 Beta. So that's 1,000 to run. Alright, let's start bleeding off some speed. Let's not immediately overfly that lake, because that is a recreational area. Okay, so speed is very nicely, slowly coming back. Then let's go ahead, give it a little bit of flaps here. Flaps 20 for the traffic pattern. Not required by procedure, but we want to get that speed under control because of all the other possible traffic there. So there is no traffic flying in this pattern over here. Remember, we're on VATSIM now, and then let's enter downwind. Please flag traffic, November 4, Lima November, entering downwind runway 26, full stop landing. Alright, landing gear down. And here we are, turning final. Beautiful photogrammetry. It's unbelievable what this simulator has become to be. When I saw the first couple of preview shots of MSFS back in the day, I was really like, man, there's gotta be marketing shots. They couldn't. There is no way that they could have made it look this good. Well, they made it look even better with FS24. Okay, so let's turn final. And there's our runway. So, the gear is down, the flaps are down. Alright. Idle, props full. Flare. Let it roll a little bit. We are going to take the next exit because that one is closest to where we want to park. And here we go, that is looking good. Okay, runway vacated. So, transponder standby, then let's do the after landing checks over here. So, props full forward, flaps up, boost pumps off, trim tabs, neutral cabin heater off, and we could definitely give it a little bit of mixture as well. Alright, after landing checklist complete. So guys, get ready for the giveaway as soon as the airplane has been shut down at the parking position. Alright, so I didn't damage anything, that's good. And parking brake is set, so shutdown checklist. And for that we'll do the... yeah, I tell you what, let's do it straight out of the book. So, parking brake set, engine idle for cooldown has been done, radios and lights off. And we'll just keep the beacon on. Okay, so, mixture cutoff. And then, magnetos. Off and off, fuel selectors, off and off. Okay, alternators, off, pitot heat off, battery off, and that's the shutdown checklist complete. Alright, with that out of the way, let's go ahead and open those doors, and let's actually attach that airplane. Attach all the ground covers again. So, truck number 1. We'll also tie that airplane down. And chock number 2. Here it is. Alright, perfect. So, look at the leading edge over here. We really made that airplane dirty, didn't we? And look at that. Yeah, we definitely need to clean that before we can give a copy of it away. So let's go ahead and do that. We'll go down to the maintenance page, airframe, and clean the box. Now let's go back outside, and look at that, nice and shiny airplane. So, who wants that nice and shiny airplane? Are you guys ready? Put it down into the comments below. So, to explain the rules to everyone once again, in order to win a free copy from the... or a free copy of, I should say. In order to be able to win a free copy of our Aerostar, I'm going to ask you guys some questions about some of the knowledge that has been shared throughout today's live stream. And we're going to start with something very, very simple. Now, this may be a little bit of differences between European and North American ops. So you definitely want to respond with the European way of these things here. And God, it is difficult to come up with something that is actually not Googleable within a matter of minutes. So let's actually ditch that European stuff. We'll do stuff that every one of you can answer so that you Americans are not getting a disadvantage here. Okay, so, what is the reason? What is the reason that A2A simulations what are they doing different than other developers? What is the reason that the airplane flies so incredibly well? What are they doing different? What is the trick? Waiting for the answers. There is a little bit of lag between when I'm saying things over here and when you guys are actually hearing it in the live stream. So, therefore, you know, therefore everything comes with a little bit of delay here. I think it's like 40 seconds or something. And Alpha Polo, you are absolutely correct. So that was really quick. Alpha Polo is actually the first one to have responded there, and he says A2A have the AccuSim technology. And that's completely correct. Like Fly to Live says, it is an external flight model that AccuSim is using. And this external model means that the aircraft does not suffer from Flight Simulator 2024's very own limitations in the flight model, and that's the reason why those A2A aircraft are just running really, really well and why they are flying so cool. Now, Dench 1 kilogram, they own the real aircraft. That's absolutely true as well. So A2A does own an Aerostar, or rather did own an Aerostar. They eventually had to do a belly landing on it, which is the reason why they're no longer operating it nowadays. But absolutely right, they are doing a lot of excellent research, and Alpha Polo, you've been first. So for this reason, you have won a free copy of the Aerostar. Do drop me an email, include some proof that it is actually you, so that there is nobody impersonating you. And drop me an email. You can find my email address on the contact tab of the of the channel. And then I'm going to forward your details to the developers, or rather to A2A, so that you are going to obtain your free copy. Alright, so that was copy number 1. We've got 2 more that we can actually give away. And then, I suppose, we are going to go into more details. But you guys have been absolutely right. A2A does their research directly on the real-world aircraft, and therefore they get the results in terms of the performance that they can. Now, let's get to the next question. And for that, guys, refresh your live stream. Be sure that you're at the very correct time and that you are not lagging behind. So maybe just hit F5 to refresh the channel and the live stream, so that you're able to get the next question as early as it comes. Again, the same logic, and Alpha Polo, you are obviously not going to answer this one because you've already won your copy. And then let's continue with the next one. And Nicholas, no, this is not just for members, this is for anyone. Okay, so we've had quite a lot of fun with engine failures today, and I told you some earlier during the live stream that in order to be able to survive a takeoff, after all, we want to avoid you guys wrecking the brand new airplane like I just did. I told you that there are how many numbers of items on the engine failure checklist that you should be able to execute by heart straight away. So question number 2, how many items are there on the engine failure checklist that you need to be able to execute straight away as memory items? So, waiting a little bit to give you guys time to write the answers. Remember, always a little bit of lag between when I'm recording something live and when you guys get to hear it in the stream. So for this reason, we always want to be absolutely sure that we are. So that was that one. And well, a couple of you are actually complaining that the stream would be cutting out and that my voice would be cutting out. Now, I'm afraid I'm not really sure of what to do about that. I'm afraid I'm really not sure what to do about that. Okay, but if you guys say that there is so much trouble, then I tell you what we're going to do. We are going to save the third copy of the giveaway for... We're going to save the third copy of the giveaway for another live stream where we make sure that we are actually not going to run into any of those problems. So that it's a fair chance for everyone. Alright. So yeah, Apollo, do send me that email, and Tom Eberle, also send me that email, please. You can get the email address. I can't really mention it on the stream over here due to all those lovely spam robots. But you can get it on the main page of the channel. Do let me know in the comments below once you have gotten that email address. And with that, guys, last copy of the giveaway is going to be done in a dedicated new stream over the course of the next couple of days. So, thank you very much for watching. As always, be sure to like, comment and subscribe. Let me know how you like the Aerostar. I most definitely really like it. It flies absolutely fine. Not just absolutely fine, it flies absolutely superb. And just to answer the question again, the two winners are Apollo and Tom Eberle. Thank you very much, guys. Do drop me those emails. I'm also going to put it in the chat below. And then we'll do the next copy on the next live stream. So thank you very much for watching, everyone. I do hope that you have all enjoyed it. And we will do the last copy on a dedicated stream, because it's not fair if the stream is